Hi everybody, welcome to modules 9 and 10 of the management section of Business Essentials 1. Hopefully you all had a good first week learning about management concepts or reviewing them again if you've learned them before. This module 9 is going to focus on strengths. So oftentimes when we develop leaders, we look at the deficiencies and areas of development and weaknesses, and we'll do that at some point in the program, but Module 9 is all about strengths. What are your strengths? What do you do well? What energizes you? Do you know what your strengths are? And if you do, try to use them more often. So one assessment for all of you is called the VIA Character Strengths Survey. It's free, online. You can get your friends and family to take it too if you want to. Optional is the Kolb Learning Styles Inventory. We've had a lot of problems in the past with getting this website to work. It's $35. So that's totally optional if you're interested in knowing more about your learning style. That is certainly another assessment that you can take. So we've got some slides about the learning style inventory. So if you don't actually purchase to take the LSI, you can look through the slides and try to determine your own style. Some information about learning styles. There's a link about the VIA, benefits of using your strengths at work. Strength Finder, some of you may have done at work. That's another assessment that focuses specifically on your strengths, that you can purchase the book and get the assessment. And then a little bit about the strengths approach in here. Trombone Player Wanted, Chapter 2, Part 1. Okay, so your written assignment this week is to describe your results from VIA. Tell me your top 5. And then if you want to talk about any other strengths, you can. Pick a couple of your top strengths. How do you use them? Have you ever overused them? So we can overuse our strengths. So we have to be aware of that. How can you increase the use of your top strengths? Create a plan. And then how can you help others identify and use their strengths? So that's the individual assignment for this module. The discussion board. I'm going to ask you to write about your learning style. So again, you can do that, assess yourself just based on the slides, and identify your learning style in your post. So mine is assimilating, so I would do Sigler assimilating. Then I would identify my ideal situation for learning, my worst learning style, my worst learning situation, and what would you like your manager to do to help you learn something new on the job. So hopefully through the discussion board, you'll learn about each of the different learning styles. Okay, so for Module 10, we're going to look specifically at leadership development in terms of emotional intelligence. So if you haven't done any reading or research on emotional intelligence, here's a good start for you. And I encourage you to spend some time developing these competencies if you are a leader or if you find any areas where you could improve. So unlike the strengths focus, we're going to look at both your strengths and your developmental needs for emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is basically being smart about emotions. So being able to recognize your own emotions and manage your emotions, being able to recognize emotions in other people, and to use that information to develop effective relationships. So you have a reading. We've got some PowerPoints. There's some videos related to emotional intelligence. So in my previous school, I helped create and taught in a master's program that was totally based on leadership. So it was executive leadership and organizational change, and it was all focused on emotional intelligence competencies. So your individual assignment here is to write about your own competencies. So here is a table that kind of summarizes. I'm going to ask you to select 3 competencies you see as your strengths. Describe an example of how you've used them. Then identify 3 competencies where you could improve. And identify a way that you can improve that. So that is your written assignment. So that is just for me. And then the discussion board for this module, which you'll get to share with others, is some examples of what does emotional intelligence look like in action. So share an example of a competency being used well, and explain why you chose that example. Then share an example of a competency being used poorly, low emotional intelligence. And you can get these examples from anywhere. So it can be your personal, your own experiences, a video, a movie, a literature, history. So I've given you one example here, two examples, so two videos you can look at that demonstrate some of the emotional intelligence competencies. So that's all for the second week of management in the Business Essentials class. So let me know if you have any questions, and have a great